So this is part 4 of Analyzing Amanda Knox's writing to Supermind or Super Intel or her unconscious. I'm in chapter 9. And Dr. Hodges points out that Amanda repeats the keywords, shower 8 times, blood 11 times, and kitchen 6 times in her email. So another important point in analyzing someone's writing for what the keywords are, he says in his analysis that these are important to telling the story, and that kitchen is a reference to the bedroom, and shower to her being covered with blood in this crime scene during the crime. Also, reading through the denials as the unconscious will put the truth out as a negative statement when in fact it's an affirmative one. And for example, Amanda Knox's blatant denial, quote, nothing out of the ordinary, tells us the assault on Meredith involved an extraordinary event. Amanda makes many references to vampires in her story, and of course, the assault on Meredith was like a vampire attack on her neck. So Amanda is referring to herself as a vampire. And he also looks at the awkward phrasing and how that actually refers to the crime, and the way Amanda started repeating started eating a couple of times in her story. That Raphael arrived after she started eating, and then he made some pasta, which is code word for marijuana. And then we were both eating together. Meredith came out of the shower. So right after Amanda wrote, we were eating together, then she wrote Meredith. So Dr. Hodges is pointing out that they were eating Meredith together like vampires, basically murdering her. Dr. Hodges also points out that the super intel or unconscious will communicate using double entendres. And in this case, he's referring to when Amanda wrote in her email about Raphael, he came right after I started eating. So sexuality played a large role in the commission or surrounding the crime. That Amanda's central defense was sex. Another way, consuming. She was very sexually aggressive. She came right after the men she wanted. Her partners described her as extremely aggressive in bed. And we know that she was aggressively in her roommate's face about her sexual freedom. Not so subtly, she reveals her vampire ways, sex, drugs, and money, as her actions have detailed. He also makes mention that Raphael's father even alluded to this in an interview he gave after the murder. He clearly saw Amanda as a vampire who destroyed his son. Dr. Hodges goes on to explain that one of the messaging of Amanda in her email about being at Raphael's house and then going back to her house and then going back to his house, the whole notion of 2 different houses plays a role in this, because in Amanda's life, her parents, they didn't marry until her mother was 5 months pregnant with her. So Amanda knew that she was the cause of it. And then her father left her mother when she was pregnant with Amanda's younger sister. So there was an abandonment issues here with men, her father figure. And then her father bought a house nearby where Amanda lived with her mother, so within walking distance. But then Amanda and her sisters would stay at her father's house, but her father remarried. And after he remarried and started having children with his new wife, Amanda and her sisters were kicked out of the bedrooms and forced to sleep in the living room. So they were demoted, basically. So Dr. Hodges goes into how important this is also in this commission of this crime, of things that built up to Amanda committing this crime. And the fact that it happened in Meredith's bedroom was not a coincidence as well, as since a bedroom would be such a potentially volatile topic for someone like Amanda with her backgrounds. Dr. Hodges writes that emotionally traumatized human beings often experience deep separation and loss, especially in early childhood or even adolescence, and they experience it as being cannibalized, consumed by their trauma, prompting a need to do the same. That he feels is the reason that Amanda kept referencing cannibalistic imagery, references to eating and consuming, suggests primitive motivation and early wounds in both of them, which fueled the crime. Now, when Amanda wrote that she was fumbling around the kitchen or Meredith's bedroom, implying with a kitchen knife suggests that she didn't consciously mean to fatally stab Meredith. Something terrifying, an inner vampire, took over unconsciously and triggered her rage, a rage no one had ever come close to seeing. Then Dr. Hodges points out that Amanda brings up about costumes, and on the night of Halloween, Amanda did dress like a cat. And then he said on Amanda's first Halloween out of jail in October 2013, free on appeal, Amanda dressed up all in black like a cat, or some said a cat burglar. Dr. Hodges writes that her costume suggests another confession, that she had stolen Meredith's life and gotten away with it. Furthermore, her super intel implied prison is where I belong, so I'm dressed up like I did the night before the crime, like a criminal. Please catch me and send me back. And this is kind of similar to before Amanda left for Italy. Dr. Hodges writes about the fact that Amanda was out of control with the drug use and the partying, and she even received a police ticket summons right before she left, showing her parents that she wasn't ready. They shouldn't let her go, but they did. Dr. Hodges writes that in a litany of violent predator images, Amanda has announced that she is a cat who proudly captures her prey, fox who sneaks up on her prey. Amanda came up with the name Foxy Noxy, although others tried to attribute it to the tabloids. In fact, it was Amanda who used that name on her MySpace page. A burglar from her costume who steals the lives from others, and all in all, a vampire, as she wrote about in her email. How well this all fits with a college acquaintance who described Amanda as a man-eater. Dr. Hodges also says that when Amanda wrote the next morning, I woke up at 10:30, he says that unconsciously she's telling the authorities, wake up, I'm confessing that the murder took place close to 10:35 p.m. Another important tell was Giacomo Salenzi, the boy who lived downstairs that Amanda liked, but Meredith ended up dating him. And considering Amanda's abandonment of her father issues, that this also helped trigger her violent murder. So in Amanda's email, she writes that about the house, the two-story house they lived in, and that there were 4 Italian guys in our age between 22 and 26 who lived below us. And we're good friends, and Giacomo is especially welcome. She also did this in her book. She went on a long description of Giacomo, and she ignored describing the others. Anyway, she says, Giacomo is especially welcome because he plays guitar with me and Laura, one of my roommates, and is or was dating Meredith. The other 3 are Marco, Stefano, and Riccardo. So the fact that basically a day after the murder, she writes this email and she says, oh, Giacomo, oh, he's so especially welcome. And he is, or oops, now that Meredith's dead, they're no longer dating. So he was dating her. She's very quick to point that out, which kind of points to the fact that she's kind of saying, I won now or something. This was important to her. In other words, that everyone know this, that they're no longer dating. Dr. Hodges writes about it. The message marker especially reveals that now Amanda has Giacomo back to herself. In doing so, she demonstrates the dark, vengeful, murderous motives, a shadow side of the unconscious. Amanda did not kill Meredith simply over Giacomo, but it was a factor. Due to Amanda's deep father hunger, losing a man, it was especially hurtful. She is intensely competitive. Giacomo's was hers in the first place. She was playing music with him. No wonder Amanda was so insulting to Meredith about letting her have Giacomo. Because Meredith had written, I let her have him, right? And that did bother Meredith. That Amanda said that. And the last thing I'll cover is Amanda's talking about taking out the trash in her email. She said, I assumed someone in the house was doing exactly what I just said, taking out the trash or taking really quickly to the neighbors or talking really quickly. She forgot the Q and quickly to the neighbors downstairs. So she's talking about finding the front door open when she came home to her second home there. So Dr. Hodges writes that Amanda is secretly reviewing the details of the murder. So Dr. Hodges is saying that Meredith must have made Amanda feel like she was trash, and trashy Amanda, someone was dumping her, getting rid of her, degrading her, devaluing her. In turn, this led her to control Raphael and Rudy into doing exactly what she said. She led them to dump all of their emotional pain over on victim Meredith, treat her like she was trash, and remove her from her home, take her out, destroy her. Amanda confesses that she was the mastermind behind it all. We wonder, would Raphael and Rudy have killed without Amanda's authoritative control?